GM friends, and welcome back to another episode on Friends Validator. If this is your first video, I'm your host Yuri Malbaum, and this shows up that brings together crypto pioneers, exciting projects, and a thriving community. We at Friends Validator are core contributor to the staking sector and believe that it will grow into a multi-billion-dollar industry over the next couple of years. On this show, you will learn how to profit from the proof of stake run-up, how to make passive income in crypto with staking, and how to stay ahead of the curve. If this sounds interesting to you, then please subscribe to the show. And today, I'm sitting here with Yair Cleper from Lava Network. Lava Network launched very recently and is about to become the access layer for blockchain. And in today's episode, we are going to elaborate on what this precisely means, why Lava has one of the most exciting tokenomics models in the industry, RPC nodes, and so much more. And with that being said, Yair, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Yuri. Great to be here. Super exciting. Those August very warm days. But yeah, here it's nice and chill with the AC.
Yes, I can imagine. We're both tuning in from Lisbon right now, so the summer is definitely back in Lisbon. But yeah, I think it makes the most sense if you would introduce yourself to all of the people who don't know you, provide like some overview of your background in the industry and what you did before building Lava Network.
For sure. Yeah, so thank you. I'm excited to be here. My background goes very back to study computer engineering. I was in a special program in the Israeli army and study in the school that's called Technion. It's like the MIT in Israel. And I was curious about entrepreneurship from a very early age. So I think when I was about 21, I founded my first startup. Was something similar to Wix, the website building company. Sold it after 3 years and jumped into the next thing. Did a couple of one fintech startup, another business intelligence, and even supermarkets technology. So I was super curious about technology, data, and actually a bit more than 3 years ago, decided to jump into my next venture with my co-founder, Gil. And Gil was also serving one of the top intelligence unit and founded and sold the cybersecurity by himself. And he started to do, 3 years ago, MEV bots, and let's say it was the NFT summer. So very interesting time back then, a lot of opportunities. And, I jumped after him right through the rabbit hole. And it was fascinating to see this very complex technology, the next finance revolution, right? The core infrastructure of everything that can be built in Web 2, can be transformed and built on Web 3. But we always, from the get-go, it was very difficult for us to get access to the different blockchains, right? To read, write, transaction, and so forth. So basically, infra was shit. And this is where we thought, come on, let's leverage our knowledge, expertise in building teams, products, startups, and build Lava, an access layer for blockchain.
Yeah, let's talk about this because you are achieving that by basically making the entire RPC node market completely open and permissionless, if you want to put it, break it down in super plain words. But before we dive deeper here, let's get everyone on the same page. What are RPC nodes? So, like maybe for people who are in crypto but don't know what RPC nodes are, just to make sure that everyone understands what we are about to talk about in the next few minutes.
For sure, Jury. So let me ask you this question. What language do you speak?
German, English, Spanish.
Amazing. So, I speak English, Hebrew, and a couple of other maybe, but RPC is basically the language of blockchain. It's how do you communicate with each and every blockchain. Each blockchain has a set of RPC or APIs responses and requests. So every time you're opening the wallet, the wallet checking the account balance, and automatically it queries an RPC nodes. Every time that you make a transaction, you also use RPC nodes to make the transaction. read-write the gas fees and so forth. So if you think about RPC, remote procedure call, it's basically the request and response protocol between the app wallet and the blockchain node. This is, in general, how we can define them.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good explanation to really explain it to someone who's 5 years old or something. So yeah, I think that's a very good starting point. And now, usually it was always like this, that validators provided these RPC nodes in the form of foundation delegations. So this is like usually how it works. So as a validator, you talk to a foundation and then you talk about infrastructure pieces that you could provide. You guys are now changing that by basically offering a huge network. And this is like how people can understand it as like the access layer to blockchain, right? By saying, hey, this is like your RPC node network layer, and from there you can access all sorts of blockchains. This is what you guys mean with access layer for blockchains.
Yeah, I think you touch it exactly right. If you think about surfing the web, right? So you typing www.google.com, right? You don't know really what version of HTTPS you're using. You don't know even what is TCP/IP. You have no idea where the website is stored, whether it's Europe, North America, GCP. You have no idea of that. So when we jumped into Web3, we realized that as a dApp, you have to have this knowledge, and that's where the idea of building a unified layer, an access layer, that taking the burden away of dApps to spin up RPC nodes, communicate with top big providers for that, or even using, as you mentioned, the validators RPC nodes that they run voluntarily in each chain. That doesn't make sense. That's not a scalable industry, and you cannot build billions of dApps or support billions of users with this kind of implementation. So if you may, the RPC, the access layer is kind of the fourth layer of the blockchain that until we came felt was kind of neglected.
Yes, I think that's super interesting. And let's also like maybe dive deeper into this, how like in regards to what the industry looks like today in regards to RPC nodes. I mentioned it a little bit. Usually it occurs via negotiations with the foundations that are initiated by the validators. So can you talk a little bit about the RPC node market today, like the scale, how it usually works, and why it makes sense to basically have like one open layer where everyone can, just interact like with a marketplace?
Definitely. You mentioned the validators. Because today there's not a handful of chains, there are hundreds and probably thousands of different chains. Today, smaller chains are asking validators to run the RPC nodes. So just FYI, those validators should not run the RPC node on the same validating nodes, because then you're risking yourself. So basically, they need to do they have another burden, another thing that they need to support while supporting the chains. If you are a big, reputable chain with a lot of funds from raising a lot of funds from big VCs, then it's easier for you to go to big providers. But big providers today support also a handful of chains. Some, Alchemy support 8 chains, Infura support 16, Blockdaemon 20 something. But again, today you have hundreds of blockchains. So how do you leave all of that? And this is when we realize that new chains will not pay big provider because it's super expensive, and they rather work with the community. Or established chains, they just have a lock-in contracts for providers, and again, they don't want to provide this kind of service only depending on 1, 2, 3 providers. So this is how today RPC nodes are being paid today by the foundation. Basically, already in a testnet phase of a chain, they're reaching out to providers, to validators, and asking them, can you support our RPC layer? Without this RPC layer, as a reminder, dApps cannot build, you cannot make a transaction, and all the chain doesn't function.
Yeah, I think that's very well explained. Also, like straight to the point. Maybe we zoom out a little bit because many people might ask themselves, okay, all of this makes sense. RPC nodes are a crucial puzzle piece of the industry. But can you now talk a little bit about Lava's blockchain itself, like where the architecture part comes into play? Because at the end of the day, you're using a Cosmos SDK chain. So maybe you can talk a little bit about why Lava Network essentially needs a blockchain for this infrastructure, and why, I don't know, a protocol built on Ethereum or Neo or whatever wasn't enough, and you needed to build an own blockchain with an own validator set.
Definitely. So Lava, we mentioned before, it's an access layer, right? And you think about Lava as the permissionless Amazon for any Web3 service. But the first point of Lava, it's RPC. Basically, it's aggregates RPC providers that running nodes in a specific chain. And when a dApps reaches Lava, the Lava has a very unique novelty of SDK that pairing the dApp, fetching a list of relevant node runners, and they speak directly between themselves. So there's no gateway, there are no problems of single point of failure, privacy, censorship, or even data accuracy. We've seen in the past, not so long time ago, that those problems are keeping going and going. If the RPC provider, and even reputable ones, have downtime, you cannot access the chain. You don't see the account balance. You cannot make transaction. You cannot sell a shitty NFT. You cannot do anything, right? So when we thought about Lava, the architecture makes sure that you always have couple of providers that if you have, even if the dApp wants to query and the provider has a downtime, automatically you revert it to another provider. So in general, Lava, it's a blockchain that connects dApps to any other blockchains, and this is the unique thing about that. The product that you mentioned, the incentive pools, is basically coming to the mentioned providers that we mentioned, chains that we mentioned before. And chains, instead of go and get quotes from providers and hold them accountable, blah, 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 the first product that Lava introduced is called incentive pools. Basically, every chain can define incentive pools, attract RPC providers, and those RPC providers are getting rewards at the end of the month based on the service they actually made. So Lava pairs between the apps and the RPC provider. Lava aggregates all the RPC providers and routes requests based on the quality of service and the amount of stake that the RPC provider has stake. This is how, in general, you simplify the dApps onboarding to each and every chain. They don't need to think about nodes, and the chain themselves knows what they're paying for, while those rewards are coming back to the community who runs the nodes.
Yeah, I think that's super straightforward, and I want to follow up on something that you just mentioned. You mentioned that RPC nodes are just the beginning, kind of. That was like a question of mine for later, but now let's touch base on that. Like this long-term distribution plan that you guys envision here. So apparently you won't focus on RPC nodes only in the future. So will we also see like these incentivized pools? We will also talk about the Lava tokenomics tokenomics dynamics in a second, but will you also incentivize market participants to offer other crucial infrastructure pieces like relayers and so on and so forth? So can we imagine Lava Network in the future as like kind of this huge infrastructure marketplace where everyone can offer and acquire services that are needed to build dApps or run a blockchain?
Definitely. I think it's already happening. We thought it's down the road, but there was a lot of demand to do APIs also, indexing, subgraph, oracles, sequences, any data primitive basically is able to be reflected on this marketplace. Lava announced, the foundation announced partnership with Apibara. Subscript. They looking into more indexing services, because RPC is the basic, it's the language. But afterwards, what do you have? You have the same problems again. You need to ask for providers of indexing, of subgraphs. So it's the same pools can be used to attract those providers. And that's how we see a new data primitive in this world of Web3 in the form of Lava.
Yeah, that's super exciting because essentially there are like so many additional infrastructure pieces that are pretty expensive to get because it's also kind of monopolized. There are like just a few players that are well known at least, or that are easy to speak to. And now that you just opened the market, I think that's something very, very important to see. In regards to that, obviously, all of that is connected, and this leads us to the value accrual of the Lava network, which is obviously the Lava token. So let's talk a little bit about how this entire dynamic and this entire market logic works. So Lava, your native token, is like pretty famous for having a very low inflation that might become deflationary. That's like a scenario. So chains set up pools and basically say, okay, this is what we need, guys. And they incentivize, today at least, RPC nodes to provide these RPC nodes. And the actual rewards, therefore, come from the chains that require RPC nodes. So can you unpack all of this super low inflation rate of Lava, and how these chains basically interact with the Lava network in order to get the infrastructure pieces that they need?
Yeah, of course. I think most of this information is you have it online. And also one thing before I am jumping it to how the architecture and the tokenomics works, you mentioned a very interesting thing before about the usage itself, right? The usage itself. And I just talked to one of the CMOs of the protocols, the chains that using Lava, and they said that they found out that super users of community are running nodes, right? They're not only using a node provider, they trust themselves. So anyway, they're running a node. But until today, they were not being able to monetize that. So now when they have the Lava pools, they are just signing up their node and can monetize that exactly as Uber for nodes, and receive rewards from the pool based on the quality of service. So back to my conversation with the CMO, he said it's actually a marketing business, a marketing budget. It's not even only an infra budget, because it touch and it goes back to the community. So that's one thing that I wanted to add. When you think about what the Lava Foundation presented, they said that the set of rewards going back to the validators, the providers, and the delegator, they come directly from the incentive pools, right? So once you have more demand for RPC over Lava, the reward serve set is incentivizing the RPC providers to join. And I don't know if we touched about it a bit before, but the quality of service mechanism is really crucial for the next session of each RPC. So if we're walking just about how this pairing mechanism works, basically it pairs the DApp to the provider based on two parameters: the stake of Lava that the provider has and the quality of service. So if obviously the stake and the service is high, the same RPC provider will receive more service and then more rewards. So everything is balanced around the marketplace. And obviously Lava became already the go-to RPC in chains like Axelar, Evmos, Near, and the foundation just announced on submitting those pools and taking grants from Starknet, Filecoin, Stargaze, Union, and more. So more demand there is, more rewards are going back. And yeah, I think this is in general how you create the balance in this marketplace.
Yeah, I think that's very well broken down. Also, yeah, in regards to, and I think this was like in the beginning to make this a little bit more clear to people. In the beginning, people were like wondering, okay, I need to select essentially two validators in the very beginning. So you have this interesting collaboration with staking rewards. So people are in the interface, and then they need to select an RPC provider, but also like a validator. So I found this was like very very interesting to see.
I think you mean the restaking.
The restaking, yes, for the restaking part, exactly.
Restaking, it's a different set of engagement towards the community, right? Towards I think what the Lava Foundation presents, according to towards the token holders, right? Because at the end of the day, everyone, like a token holder, can stake can delegate to a validator, but can restake to a provider, top providers that they want to give you more service, right? If you go back to how provider receiving the service, and yeah, that's the restake mechanism that is super novel and basically brings it to real utility for the providers themselves.
Yeah, so let's dive deeper here, like a little bit. So would you say that, like this, like basically restaking Lava really unleashes like the full potential of what you can do in this ecosystem? So basically, just staking Lava, for example, via Kepler and do nothing, isn't like very worth it compared to straightly going to, for example, staking rewards and unleashing the full potential by restaking it. So if you would talk to someone who just got the Lava airdrop, would you like recommend him to go to restaking directly?
Look, I'm not authorized to recommend anything about obviously the token. I was working in Magma Devs, that the initial core contributor. So obviously everything about the announcement and stuff like that is all depending on the Lava Foundation. I think that they took a very interesting approach with this restaking mechanism, because it engaged more with the community. At the end of the day, as you said, you can plain stake as a token holder. But if you're not a techie person, if you want to participate more, to contribute to the ecosystem, you can basically go to the dashboard, look at the providers, look how good service they give, and really reward them or give them the option to be rewarded with more stake. This is the restake mechanism. And you see, I think the idea came obviously from the Eigen network that is super successful right now. But those kind of feature, I think, makes the ecosystem, the community, much more thriving, right? You want to connect the dots. You see, for example, the points that the Lava Foundation presented early in February, right? Allowing every wallet user to change the endpoint to Lava and earn points, right? This is connecting each and every user, each and every crypto user, to the core values of Web3. You want to make sure that you don't trust a single provider. You want to make sure that you have more privacy. You want to make sure that you will not have that you will have censorship resistant and data accuracy. So the price that you see is actually the price that is, being requested from the blockchain itself. And all of these tools are amazing to engage with the end user and make sure that they use the right infra to scale.
Yeah, speaking of points, maybe we can talk a little about the future and for other projects that are about to launch and think about implementing a point system. So what are maybe some lessons learned? What could you recommend to founders in regards to implementing a successful point system?
Look, I think what was interesting, I'm not sure points today has the same appealingness, the same attractiveness as they had like a few months ago. But I remember something that will help projects, raise the head above the water with all the noise that exists today. because when a project coming to a new chain, new ecosystem, they want to make sure that they distinguish themselves from other projects, that they can engage the community. And I think what the Lava Foundation did with the point system was amazing. And back at the time, I remember I was in East Denver. We've been reached by different chains to ask that can the chain specifically rewards their users with a seasonal, bounties or a seasonal way of points that that can contribute to this overall effort, right? Because if you go back, Lava is a public good, and for every new chain it's coming, it's engaging more the community, it brings more dApps, it's lowering the building hurdles, right, and eliminating all those type of burdens. So at the end of the day, if you can incentivize community users that are not technical, don't need to run nodes, even by connecting the wallets to the point system, that can be much more successful adoption within the chain. And I think I heard some conversation about that from the Lava Foundation, and I'm really curious to see what they're coming up with.
Yeah, this sounds good. Let's see what happens next. And yeah, I also strongly agree with the sentiment about points. The sentiment about points in the beginning of the year was crazy. And then a lot of people, I believe, were a little bit unhappy about Eigenlayer's airdrop. And then all of a sudden, people weren't interested in points anymore and couldn't see them. But yeah, interesting to see what's coming next. With that being said, thank you so much. I feel way more educated about Lava Network now. And yeah, thanks so much for joining. And let's do this. Let's do this once again in the future.
Definitely. Thank you for hosting me, and pleasure being here today.